Kirishima ties the ropes to the mooring, hands feeling better already. Mina was surprised at the quickness with which his skin toughened up, scabbing over and making his palms rough. He thinks they will feel more like Bakugou's now. Mina and Bakugou go off to scope out the meeting place for information, and Kirishima heads to the nearest messaging port to send another letter to his sister. She would be enamored with the beaches here, the white sand and swaying trees. Even the harbor docks are inviting. He strolls easily through the streets until he meets Sero, who walks with him to their meeting point. Their seller is apparently an old resident of the island, but when they meet Bakugou and Mina in the distance, they're with a couple of kids. "Oi, Kiri," Mina calls out. She's laughing, waving him over. "Meet our sellers." Kirishima is already grinning as he approaches. They're two girls, around the same age, faces streaked with dirt, eyebrows furrowed together. "They're a couple of brats." Bakugou spits by their feet. The smaller girl spits back, narrowly missing his boot. "You're a brat, pirate," she yells, fist to her sides. They can't be more than 10 years old. Sero and Kirishima glance at one another and laugh, unable to keep their amusement from showing. "So what's the holdup, Captain?" Sero asks. "You aren't going to take their little journal?" "We just got here, dumbass." "Now, kid, show me the papers." "How did you guys get involved in this?" Kirishima asks, crouching to their level. The taller girl sniffs, sticking her dirty little nose into the air. "Grandma's leg's bad. She doesn't want to be walking all over town for a bunch of filthy pirates just for a few gems." "So she sent you." Kirishima laughs. He thinks it's pretty careless, but there really were all kinds of people in the world. "You've got a big responsibility." "We can handle it," she says. She reaches into the bag at her side. "I don't know why she's going to get money for a crummy old journal, but she says we can have new dresses if we sells it." Bakugou reaches down and snatches the journal, quick. "Hey!" the girl shouts and slams her fist into his arm. He smirks down at her, and she pouts. "Your hat is stupid," she says. Bakugou rolls his eyes and nudges her away. "Bakugou." Kirishima sighs. "What?" he says, frowning. "It's taking too long." "That was rude," Kirishima says. "They're just kids." "I'm not a kid, I'm 11, the shorter girl says, crossing her arms. "Oh, sorry," Kirishima says. "But he still shouldn't be rude to you." "Kiri, need I remind you who the fuck I am?" Bakugou says, breathing deep. Kirishima winces as he swears. "I'm just saying, Captain." "We're gonna get our friend here to read the book, and we'll see if we want to buy it, okay?" Mina says kindly. "Okay." The girls nod at her, obviously liking her more than Bakugou, who keeps scowling at them. "Actually, I'm going to read it," Bakugou says, opening the journal. Kirishima stands, looking over his shoulder. Bakugou clears his throat and carefully, slowly reads out the words that are twisted around the page, in a font that's small and difficult to read. He turns the book as he peers at it. This part is usually pretty descriptive of the coast it makes. Lit. Bakugou clicks his tongue and shoves the book over to Kirishima. "The littoral," Kirishima says. "The littoral." He keeps reading, skimming through the blank pages and searching the 4-lined stanza that gives directions. It's near the end of the book, and he nods as he gets through it. "Sail, swim, and walk not. There is no safety in the sky. Row beneath the roots, and make sure to tell no lies." "You're lucky you can read, but that was boring," the acclaimed 11-year-old says. "Here's your payment," Bakugou says, holding out the purse the coins are stowed in. The girl's eyes light up, and he crouches down to them. He opens the bag and roots around. He finds 2 studs. Kirishima almost snorts. They're the diamond earrings he was wearing the day Bakugou took him. He hands one to each of the girls. "Keep these for yourself," he says. "Keep 'em safe, and trade 'em when you're older if you want. Maybe just hide half of it away, if you're good at keeping secrets." The girls stare up at him, wide smiles and bright eyes. Thank you, Captain. I don't really think your hat is stupid. Bakugou snorts. All right, you get home, and don't run any more trades for your grandma. Not everyone is as nice as I am. Nice work, Captain, Mina says as they run off. Look at you, reading and shit. Bakugou tries not to look smug as he pockets the journal. Now we get to relax a bit before we head to UA. It's a long voyage, Zero says to Kirishima. We gotta gather our bearings a bit so we're in top condition. Top condition, apparently, means drunk as sin. Kirishima helps carry the cases of rum onto the ship. Mina already has a bottle between her lips, swallowing the harsh liquid like it's water. They're not leaving the island, just planning on anchoring the ship in an unoccupied cove until Bakugou deems it's time to leave. UA is halfway across the globe from where they are, currently. It'd take them weeks to reach it, and even then, they're still only searching for a whisper about the information they need. Mina said that was the longest part, mostly. The waiting and the looking could take months from their search, once as long as a year. Kirishima glanced at the map, trying to find Iowa. He was far, far, far from home. Strangely, he got homesick. He misses his family and his friends. But for the first time in what feels like forever, he feels like he's making choices that are for himself without any weight of selfishness upon his shoulders. He watches as the boat steers away from its mooring, and they make their lazy way along the coastline. Have you been there before? Kirishima asks. Yeah, there's a cove up ahead that's hell to get to, but we know where the rocks are. You line the bow up with the tallest tree in the mountain in the distance, and you're golden. Kirishima looks over the edge of the boat, away from the waves at the sides, and sure enough, the clear water yields a view to the ocean floor, speckling more and more dark rocks that soon grow in height and spike dangerously through their liquid hold. The cove is circled by high palms, a quiet white sand beach tucked away on the island. The water is brilliantly blue, and there's scarcely a breeze that rocks the boat once they anchor it down. They lower a boat to paddle to the shore, but Bakugou stays behind, stripping his clothes, throwing them into the rowboat as Kirishima descends the side of the ship with Shoji and Monoma. They've hardly started paddling to the shore when Kirishima sees Bakugou stand, a lithe figure on the railing of his ship. He arches his arms over his head and jumps into the sky, beautiful as he dives into the depths below. Kirishima's stomach lurches at the fall, even though he's not the one going. Soon after, he sees Mina jump, Zero quick behind her. Others follow their captain's example, but many opt for the rowboats to stay dry as they reach the shore. There's a long wharf that juts out into the cove, and they tie their boats to the mooring. Kirishima sits on the weary wooden ribs, creaking softly in the gentle tide. He pulls off his boots to rest his feet in the water. He hears the laughter from the crew, not far now from where the wharf is, and grins. He would have suspected Bakugou to plow on through, to not stop until every bit of information was obtained as quickly as possible. But Bakugou was smart. He thought of things Kirishima overlooked, like the need to stay low-key. The need for his crew to rejuvenate after their hard work was important too, and this short stop highlighted to Kirishima even more the fact that, beyond his harsh words and strict command aboard the Crepitus, he did care about the well-being of his crew. Oi! Kirishima hears Bakugou's voice call out, and he sees him beckoning him into the water. Love, come here. Kirishima waves at him a little, shifting on the wharf. I can't swim. What? I can't swim, Kirishima yells. Bakugou breaks away from the group, swimming over to him easily. Though he's had his head underwater, his hair still manages to stick out a bit, droplets clinging to the strands and dripping onto his sun-tanned shoulders. Can't believe I have to teach you everything, Kirishima yells when Bakugou yanks on his leg, sudden enough he can't grip onto the wharf. He flails, reaching for the deck, coughing when the water rushes into his mouth and up his nose. He heaves in, panicked and certain the water will claim his last struggling breaths, clutching to Bakugou, who is holding him up. He clings to his shoulders, wrapping his legs around his body, not understanding how Bakugou's feet aren't on the cove's floor, but he's still managing to keep both of them afloat. Kirishima wants to be mad at him, but he can't. He's caught off guard by the water droplets clinging to his thick eyelashes, the beads rolling down his temples, caressing the sudden cut of his jaw to drip finally from his chin. His eyes are colored in the sunset and the easy smile he gives. For that's what it is now. Not a grin, not a smirk, but a genuine smile across his face. Dimples one cheek and makes Kirishima's heart flip in his chest. The way his golden hair is lit by the sun behind him, Kirishima thinks, not for the first time, that he looks like a king. Bakugou shifts him a little, forcing his grip loose until he sits on his hips. Kirishima wants to hold him closer, still afraid of the water but trusting in Bakugou's strength, so he opts to frame his face with his hands and kiss him deep, believing he can taste the heat of his lips beyond the salt of the water. Bakugou squeezes his thighs from where he supports him, trails one hand across Kirishima's back, never letting his touch break contact with his skin. Kirishima opens his eyes again, breathless not just from his captain's inviting lips, but from the rapid pounding of his heart that pumps his blood so loudly in his ears he's sure Bakugou can hear each love-struck beat, for that's what Kirishima thinks this is. He couldn't put a name to the feeling once, and he dares not to utter it aloud, but now, what else could he call these breathtaking acts of devotion and care he so willingly seeks and so greatly desires? What is any of this, if not love? Bakugou kisses his cheek quick and pries Kirishima off of his body, laughing. You're like a starfish, or a squid. Wow, thank you, Kirishima says, getting whiplash from the difference between the sincerity of his thoughts and the humor of Bakugou's words. Though he supposes even that, the quiet jest reserved for him, factor into his feelings. I don't want to drown. You won't, dumbass. Just stretch out and float. Kirishima keeps a hold of his hands and Bakugou pushes him away. He feels panic rise with the water around his throat, but he keeps his eyes steady on Bakugou's face and tries to hold himself up by pressing down on his hands. His body is sinking like a rock, but his captain keeps his head above the water. Kirishima lets Bakugou pull him around the cove, listening and failing to kick properly, but he never lets him go. The sun sends the sky into pink and red, and that means the next day will bear good weather too. Kiri, hold your breath, Bakugou says. I'm going to pull you under just a bit, okay? Open your eyes. Kirishima breathes in deep, his eyes shut tight as he descends. Bakugou pushes him by the shoulders under the surface of the water, and hesitantly, Kirishima lets the warm water sting his eyes. His vision is blurry, and his hearing is dampened. The muffled voices of the crew still splashing wildly in the water seem distant and dreamlike. Bakugou, his cheeks puffed out in front of him, little bubbles on his face, slipping out of his nose and the corners of his mouth. His hair floating around his head in front of him is an image so carefree Kirishima smiles around the air in his mouth. He smiles wider as Bakugou leans in and bumps their mouths together in an underwater kiss, so childlike and innocent it makes his heart feel near bursting. Bakugou pushes him up out of the water and Kirishima clings still to his arms, pushing back his wet hair. Bakugou wipes a hand over his face too, and smiles at him, laughing. Kirishima loves the sound. Alright, let's get you to shore, then get you drunk, Bakugou says, pulling Kirishima around him once again. Don't pansy out on the rum this time. I saw you try Ceros a while back. Kirishima pulls back so he can look at Bakugou's face. It's disgusting, but it makes you feel good, Bakugou says. And it tastes better the more of it you drink. Mina did say she wanted me to try it too, Kirishima says, supposing he'll try for a drink. He lowers his legs as the sandy floor draws closer to the water, and his toes bury into the sand, squishing beneath his feet. His arms fall from their grip around Bakugou's, but their hands stay clasped together, and it makes Kirishima have to fight his grin down as they approach the crew. Shoji and Eijirou have assembled a fire pit, larger than Kirishima's ever seen. There are logs rolled around it alongside flat rocks that scatter over the sand, and their most recent catch of fish has been impaled, waiting to be roasted. His clothes are soaked, so he drapes them over a log and hopes that Bakugou won't mind he's pulling on his shirt he dropped into the rowboats hours before. It's long and untucked. It reaches just below his hips, covering everything he feels needs to be covered. He doesn't change, though, before Mina whistles at him, wading out of the water herself, naked as the day she was born. I hope you get drunk enough for me tonight, Kiri. He laughs and sits down on one of the dark rocks, still warm from the sun, though it's almost completely faded away now. Stars are starting to peek out in the sky. Aw, Mina, I wouldn't have to be drunk. Bakugou frowns at him from where he's using a flint kick to start the fire. The sparks catch quick, and he takes a pipe from Eijirou, lighting it as well. He didn't smoke often, but when he did, Kirishima thought he was all the more glorious, and the sharp scent lingered on his skin in a way that made him feel welcoming. He remembers that his mother always hated the scent of tobacco, but Kirishima likes it in a way. "Don't worry, Captain," Mina says, pulling her own shirt over her head. She shakes out her hair, her curls already forming again. "I won't lay a hand on your precious Kirishima." "Shut up," Bakugou mutters, and the crew lets out a childish "oh." Kirishima suspects they're already drinking. The atmosphere here is different. They tease Bakugou more for his grumpiness, and he lets them off with less yelling than usual. Bakugou sits down next to him on the rock after hauling up his pants and smirking down at his shirt draped over Kirishima's shoulders. "Now, love, drink up."